Everyone. Nice to see you all today. My name is Dana. I came all the way from Israel on a flight that was delayed twice. So I was basically supposed to speak yesterday. Now I'm here tomorrow, and thank you everyone for coming. Today we're going to speak about a silent revolution that is happening. I think you all know what I'm talking about, mobile DevOps. So if I can see some hands, how many people here are working on mobile projects? I think that is like 30%, right? 30? All right, so what I think next year I'll be seeing double amount of hands, so I'll be seeing 60%. And I'm going to talk today about what are the market trends in this industry, in this mobile DevOps industry. What is happening in this industry? What are the hot topics? And then we're going to talk about a little bit about product innovations. All right, so I'm coming from Experitest. I'm head of marketing and business development. Experitest is the world-leading provider for mobile quality assurance tool, performance, functional testing, automated, manual, cloud, end-to-end suite of tools. So let's start. So I think everyone knows the hottest topic is that there's a mobile booming. We are not even in the peak of this booming, right? So if this is today, I think it's going to be much higher. Next year, we're going to double the amount of mobile testers that is sitting, and the same thing next year. So every company, every enterprise know that he needs to have a mobile application that is B2C. But I think there's something even deeper than that. Right? If in the past something B2C application is something that CMO, right? People like me, marketing teams, were pushing to say that, hey, listen, my bank has an application that supports check deposit or money transfer. Today is something much more deeper. We see a shift from B2C application to B2B. So basically, what is happening that the whole IT infrastructure of enterprises are based on mobile application. All right, so it's not just an application that is external. We're talking about an internal application between the steps. And I want to give you some examples from companies that we've been working with. So first example would be Lufthansa. So if in the past, let's say, when I'm talking about past, because it's mobile DevOps, we're talking about 2 years ago, right? I'm not talking about 10 years ago. So there were applications for ticketing or internal internet check-in. Today we have an application, second. Sorry, we'll get back to it. We have an application today that managed by the aircrew to manage the seating, the meals, everything basically that the aircrew is doing on the plane in Lufthansa is managed by this application tested by Experitest suite of tools. If in the past, okay, pilots, if anyone saw the movie with Tom Hanks, Sully, where he landed the big plane on the Hudson? Right. So what happens is, remember when when he feels there's something wrong with the plane, he's opened a big manual, a suitcase with a manual, like papers, a lot of papers, starting to read what he needs to do. So today, this was in the past, they had a suitcase with a paper manual. Today, they have an iPad. All right, so this is an example from United, customer of Experitest. And another example is Barclays. All right, so basically, they started with a few applications. Just a second, this is what I want to show you. So they started with a few applications, developed into an investment application. Now basically the whole IT infrastructure of this organization, everything that this stuff is interacting between each other is based on over dozens of mobile applications. So this is Black Friday 3 years ago, a picture that I took from Google. And this is Black Friday today. If you saw this headline, mobile shopping reaches all-time record on this Black Friday. So 30% of the revenue from this Black Friday was on mobile applications. So if your organization is not, if your enterprise is doing desktop testing, desktop development of application, is not into mobile, you have to keep up with the pace because things are going to change. They're going to change quickly than you think, like every change. So if this year I see 30%, I accept this is what I think 60% next year. So this is about the booming, with shifting from B2C application to B2B. So another trend is that if in the past we saw local project, local mobile project, and we're now seeing an organizational-wide project. So just from our experience working in C-Test for the past 3 years, like 3 years ago, we were talking to a delivery manager in Kolkata or in Pune, working on a specific mobile application, trying to develop it and test it. This is what was on the mind. They were the decision maker. They download our tool. Then they went to the manager, got an approval. They procured a tool. Now it's something different is happening. The decision-making level is not the technical, the technical manager of a certain team. We're talking about CXO level, so CTO, CIO, even CMO, Chief Marketing Officers. And why basically does it happen? Because when you talk about mobile application, you're much more exposed to mistakes. You cannot make any mistakes because it's rated on the App Store, right? So if you release an application that is not perfect, that is not equal to what your competitors are releasing, what happens is that your rate will be low, people will leave you. People have no loyalty today. They will leave for an enterprise that give them the best application. So the decision level goes up, and you know, from local projects, we're moving to wide enterprise project. So if in the past we were selling, you know, our tools to delivery teams that were testing hundreds of tests, doing hundreds of tests on dozens of devices top, let's say 4 or 5 devices, 10 devices. The biggest project was 20 devices. Now we see something completely different. What is happening today, that basically all of our projects move from small scales to large scale to enterprise level scales. We're talking about offshoring. We're talking about different teams spread in different continents, running thousands of tests on hundreds of devices located in mobile device cloud, accessed by remote team everywhere. So we have FedEx, for example. So if in the past they have an application, just let you know, B2C application, let the customer know exactly when is basically his package arrived. Now, the whole infrastructure of FedEx, there are 10 internal applications that manage all the back end of FedEx, that serve all the staff of FedEx, the management of FedEx. And another example is Barclays that I was just mentioning before. So another trend is the peripherals. So if in the past you had an application, you needed to test the application, now it's completely different. Since iOS 10, Siri support integration with third-party applications, so you can basically operate an application by using Siri. What does it mean? It means that you need to have voice command check, right? And you need to test outside of the application. So that requires basically mobile testing that is more complex, that requires a whole new set of skills that need to be tested. Another thing, there's the payment system, NFC, right? So Modi would really like that. NFC, no cash. So you have the mobile device payment system that needed to be tested end-to-end. Another thing is authentication. So basically now it's much safer to use a mobile device authentication than regular authentication on desktop, because you have the finger, right? So this also needs to be tested. So all this thing came from mobile. All this technology that evolved basically required from us to develop tools that can test it. So this is a very strong trend as well. The next thing is device condition. Now, let's say you have an amazing application, but your application consumes a lot of CPU and memory. The minute the person will understand that, he will delete your application and he will upload the application of your competitor. So you don't really can release an application just by testing the functionality of it. You need to test its performance. Another thing you need to test is that it doesn't consume too much battery, and how does it basically performs under different network conditions, under 3G, under 4G, right? What happened with the latency? What happened if the carrier is in China, is in India? So basically what is happening here, that mobile testing basically now, it's not just about the functionality side. You need to monitor the CPU while you're testing the application, the memory, the battery consumption, and you need to test it across different networks. So this is something that you cannot ignore. This is a very integral part of mobile application development and testing. A very strong trend, basically the most obvious one, is that if in the past a mobile developer, a mobile tester would connect a device into his computer locally with the USB cable, this is not happening anymore. Basically, all enterprises are moving toward mobile device lab, where you connect all your devices on-premise, or you can do it on by a hosted vendor, on a remote location where all the teams can actually access these devices. So mobile labs are an overall mobile management platform for your organization, right? So you can see a lot of various usage scenarios. It's not just serving the QA anymore. Like mobile labs 2 years ago were serving for the QA teams, but now we see something more significant is happening. Mobile labs is actually, this is a few of examples of customers of Experitas that are using our mobile lab, CTS Cloud. So for support, we have a huge organization called Fidelity. What they do, they set up a mobile device lab, and it doesn't serve just the QA and the development, it serves also the support. So if someone called support, okay, he doesn't need the support representative, doesn't actually need to ask him, listen, can you describe the scenario? Tell me what is your operating system, what's your mobile type? No, we just connect, you just ask him, what is your mobile type and your operating system? He connects to a device. He gets a live screening of the device that the customer is using, and he's performing the scenario that the person that has the problem describing. So he knows exactly what is the person that he's talking to encounters with. So he can assist and he can troubleshoot it much faster. Another thing is that there's third-party vendor troubleshooting. For example, Vodafone. They have a whole lab that is basically toward their third-party vendor, the ATC, LG, all the vendors of the devices that that Vodafone is selling, and they test it across. They need, of course, before they sell it, to test it across Vodafone network. So what they do, they set up a whole cloud where all the device vendors can, instead of sending the devices back and forth, Vodafone just put all the devices in one location, hundreds of devices, different operating system, different networks, different screen resolution, and they just test it from one place. There's also retail testing done also by Vodafone, when a person in the retail, on the shop itself can configure a device and can, from remote. So the whole thing is, what happened if in the past, an employee will go to his IT manager and said, listen, I want to get a VMware, I want to get a virtual machine. What happened today in all organization, he can go to the IT and he can say, I want to get a device reflection, I want to get an iOS device, an Android device. So this is a major change. So there's also another trend that is happening in hybrid cloud. It's not just an on-site mobile device lab in the company inside the VPN. There is a cloud that is hosted. For example, Experitas' on-site cloud, and it has an online cloud, which is hosted in Experitas data center, and many vendors do have the same offer. But why does it happen? Because if you take Bank of America, for example, I'm sure they have application that they want to test internally because it's connected to the back end of their organization. They don't want to expose the data, so they will test this application. They will develop this application in this on-site mobile device lab. But if they want to test, for example, their mobile website, bankofamerica.com, this is the data that is exposed to everyone, so they can just use the hybrid cloud. They can use the online cloud, the hosted cloud by the tool vendor, just like Experitas Cloud Online. And they can just have a variety of devices, variety of operating system. They can just pay as they go, right? They can just take an iOS device, take it for 10, let's say for 10 days, test it, and then take an Android device. So this is a very useful in terms of times consumption, in terms of money consumption, hybrid cloud. Another thing is that is very important about mobile application, that there is zero tolerance for mistakes. So as I mentioned before, if you launch an application, if you launch a website application, bankofamerica.com, and it's not working properly, no one will know. The customer will not tell anyone. It doesn't have the platform to share this information. But if Bank of America, for example, release an application, it doesn't work properly. It doesn't function properly, it doesn't perform well, it takes 10 minutes for the page to upload, this person will delete the application. Not only it will delete it, he will rate it really badly on the App Store. So the CMO, the CXO, the C-level of the management, the C-level managers of the company cannot afford this failure, okay? You cannot risk. So what basically we're saying is that mobile testing is very crucial, and there is a necessity to test it and to have a unified environment for the testing team, the development, the operation team, to test on the same devices, to have an integration to continuous integration devices, to have a robust automation environment, to have regression testing, to make sure it's a flawless application that is released to the market. So what is happening in the mobile application, what is happening in the mobile DevOps industry to match this requirement? For example, in Experitest, we have a tool, right? We have the capability to do remote debugging. So a manual tester can use a device from CTES Cloud, from the cloud. He can detect a bug. He can send a report with the bug to the developer. The developer on the same device can debug the application, right? And he can send it to the continuous integration server. And then after the bug is being tested, they found another bug, they send it again. So there's a cycle, okay? There's a continuous integration cycle in order to release an application that is flawless to the market. So we're talking about device sharing between the teams. We talked about mobile quality visibility. You cannot hide the fact that you have an application that is not working properly. So you need to take all of this under consideration, and this is why device sharing between the teams is very crucial. This is why a robust automation framework, regression testing is very crucial, and this is why you need to have continuous integration. So a little bit about the CTES Cloud, the cloud. This is the architecture. How does it build? How does it work? We have different device host machine. They can be located in different locations. This is, for example, the distributed cloud. We have some devices located in US, in India, and UK, all right? And in each location, we have a couple of device host machines connected to several devices. It can be iOS, it can be Android, it can be Windows Phone. All platforms are supported. All of them are connected through one server, okay? And through the corporate network, inside the VPN, behind the firewall of the organization. It can be external as well, but this is like what all enterprise basically prefers. And you can see here, on the lower part of the diagram, these are the users. So let's say I have an offshore team in India and an offshore team in the US working on different time zones, right? So in the morning, the Indian team are working on their machines. They're connected to the VPN. They want to get this device, this iOS device that is connected to device host machine. But one, they get a reflection immediately on their screen. So this is how it looks like. This is an implementation in a very huge telecommunication company in Europe. This is how the closet, the network closet looks like. And it contains hundreds of devices in one closet. In every data centers, we have at least 5 closets like this. So we're talking about more than 1,000 devices in every data center. So we have the cloud servers sit inside. These are the pizza box PCs. We have an NV server that can simulate different network conditions. We have the device host machine that are actually connected to all the devices. We have device standees, so everything will be organized very nicely. We have USB splitters in very high quality. So this is how it looks like, just to give you an example. Just 1 second. So this is a quick video. You can see a very detailed information here about the device status, how many are available, how many in usage. You can get a usage report as well. I'm going into the Launchpad. This is if a person, a tester from India want to test on a device, is getting into the Launchpad. You see all the devices that are available. You have Android device, you have iPads, iPhones. You can see the number of their version, if they're available, if they are in use. So I'm taking an available iOS device, iPhone 6, and I can control it. So using my keyboard and mouse, I can actually manipulate the device and control what happened on the device. I can use all the gestures. I can use the search tab. I can cancel it. I can swipe to the side, swipe up, swipe down. And I can perform basically everything that I'm doing on a device that is locally connected. I can do the same thing with this interface. So look at the speed. We're very proud of the speed. Citrus Cloud is one of the fastest cloud. Is the fastest cloud basically in the industry. The performance is just like using a device that is in your hand. You can do all the things that you want to do. You can flip it. You can zoom in. You can zoom out. So what can I do? Basically, I'm going to this over there. I'm uploading an application that I want to test from my computer. Just uploading. This is the AirBank application. I can see a login. Shows me the exact status of this. So very easy to use. So installation is complete. Look at how fast everything is happening. Going to the application I want to test. This is our application, AirBank application. I'm opening the application and see what happens when I press on the home button here. It's closed. It's just like pressing a home button. Now, I want to show you something very cool. We talked about monitoring CPU, battery, memory. So look at this. The red line is basically the device itself. And when I start touching on the application, I'm marking here that I want to test the application, AirBank application that I just uploaded. Okay, the same thing I'm doing with the memory. Okay, so I'm writing a scenario. Just a simple login scenario, and very quickly you can see that the CPU is a bit changing. Nothing is happening in the memory because it's like a very light application, doesn't affect the memory. So you can actually monitor the performance of your device, how the application that you are developing, that you're testing, affect the device. Same thing with network. This I mentioned before. You can choose a network profile. Let's choose a network profile that has a certain latency, a certain bandwidth. And you can see here that nothing is moving because I'm doing nothing, but the minute I'm getting into, this is for example, Expertus website, mobile website, I'm trying to touch things, look at what happens here. The upload and the download rate is changing, so I can see exactly how my application works in terms of network, if it consumes too many, so just before I release the application, I just need to make sure that the performance is good, doesn't hurt the device CPU memory, because then, again, the customer will not be happy. He will delete it. So what am I doing next? I want to show you the reporting, okay? The best thing about it is that it has a very detailed report, a video report, and where I can name the report, and then I call this scenario, for example, the launch. I want to launch the application. I press on the record button. I record the test that I'm doing, and I'm doing the same thing as I did before. I'm doing login, putting the credentials inside, and every step that I actually am doing performing on the devices is documented in this report very high in details, and I can put it under a section. This is the login section. Before that was the launch section. I'm doing save. I'm exporting this report to an HTML format that I can share with all of my team members. Okay, because what's the use of doing a report if you cannot share it? You need to share it with your developers, with the operation team, so they will know exactly what is wrong with the device. So you can see here there is a video shoot of what happened, and you can see where exactly the problem was at. So if you detect a bug, it shows you exactly this is where the application failed. So this is a nice short video of a report, very detailed. You can jump from steps to step. You can press on a certain step. It will take you to the screenshot of what happened. Let's talk a little bit about remote debugging, the device sharing between the teams that I was talking about. So let's open this Android device. All right, so we talked about sharing the device between development and between QA teams, the automation teams, the operation teams. Let's see how it works. Let's take this Android iPad. And we work, in this case, we work with Android Studio. So I'm opening the Android Studio. The minute I connect to the cloud and take the device you can see here on the tab, it's very small, but it's connected to the Android Studio, so it's just like I'm working with a local connected device. I don't start on remote debugging. I go back to Android Studio, and now it's connected to my Android Studio, and everything I do, everything I build on the application, you can see it automatically on the device. You can see it immediately happen on the device. I put a breakpoint. Let's go back to the device, and you'll see that the application I was just building through the Android Studio is launched on the device, and you can see exactly what I was just doing in Android Studio. So this was the remote debugging. A little bit about CTS automation. This is our automation tool. Automation basically, let's see how it works. So I have the code here. I have, shows me all the UI. Let's take a device. I'm taking a locally connected device. This is an LG device. It's an Android operating system. I'm opening the device. I get the reflection in front of me very nicely. There it is. Look at the speed of everything happening very quickly. I can control the device with my mouse and my keyboard. I'm going to open another device. This device will be from a remote location from the cloud, okay? So, just a second. All right, pressing on the cloud, take Android. Let's just move forward a little bit. Okay, now we can see it running on the iOS device without any modifications. So this is CTS automation. You generate a test, and you can run it on any other device, any other operating system, any version. Very quickly, very easy by using the record button. So I want to move very quickly to another trend that is very strong in the industry. And this trend is about using open source tools. So everyone like Appium, everybody you want to use Appium, but when you use Appium, you have a lot of challenges when you want to scale up to an enterprise level. Your setting up is very difficult. You need to have a different iOS Mac machine to different iOS versions. So to scale up to, let's say, 100 devices as a project, as I mentioned before, it's basically mission impossible. There is a test development. There's a restriction when it comes to testing outside of the application. With Appium, it doesn't work like that. You need to integrate to a lot of third parties' systems. And there's test management. You don't get the reporting. You need to integrate to a reporting system. You need to integrate into external cloud. So we have a new product called Enterprise Appium by Experitest that lets you basically scale local automation to an enterprise-wide environment. It lets you basically to connect the CTS cloud so you have the remote capabilities that are critical for enterprises. You have, provide device application user management so you get a detailed report, as I mentioned before, and very hard to set up, so enables hardware scalability. You can use the same machine, all right, and you can use a Windows machine for iOS and for Android, and you can actually connect several devices to one machine, but you cannot do with Appium, and it offers a full customizable reporting. So this is Enterprise Appium by Experitest. You see here, there's a diagram. You can connect different devices, iOS and Android, to one server machine, and then on downside, you see the users, they can use either Windows machine, they can use Apple machine, Mac machine, it doesn't matter, because with Enterprise Appium, it lets you scale up, and the hardware setup is very easy. A little bit about Enterprise Appium, a very quick demo, and I'm finishing. So let's open the cloud. So I'm taking a remote device from CTS Cloud, something that I cannot do with Appium, right? So very easy. So this is CTS automation, and it basically, I'm pressing on the record button. I record a very quick scenario, just like I did before. And after the tests are being created, I can actually export it into Appium environment. Okay, so I'm going to show you a very nice scenario when you can test outside of the application. What you do now with Appium, you cannot test outside of the application, right? So let's go to the device setting. Let's change a little bit of the device setting. This is a newly launched product by Experitest called Enterprise Appium. It's an enhanced commercial version of Appium open source, the very popular open source. So I'm changing the settings of the devices. I'm going to even change the network. My time is off. I'm finishing. That's it. That's the last thing. Changing my network, doing stop. The steps have been generated. I'm taking the steps and I'm exporting it into the Optium environment. So if you go down to the code section, you can see the script is running on a device, something that you cannot get with Optium. You don't get a device reflection. You don't get a recording button. Everything is not so user-friendly. So with Enterprise Optium, basically, you get rid of the hardware block road, and you get rid of the depth Java knowledge block road, because everyone can use a commercial tool. You have the record button. You can export the Optium code that I just created, and I can paste it into Eclipse right now. I'm creating a new class, Optium class. Right, let me just move forward. And that's it, and I paste it over here. You can see all the capabilities of Optium generated by C-Test, by a commercial tool. And that's it. So Enterprise Optium basically lets you scale up because of the hardware, no restriction. There's a testing outside application. The functional capabilities is expanded. You have the integration to performance tools. You have the remote capabilities connected to a remote device. You get a reflection of the device. You get a reporting system of what happened on the device. So very easy to use. So I'm finishing. Thank you very much. We have a booth. You can see more of our testing tool demos outside. I was Dana, and it was very nice to see you guys. Thank you.
Any questions?
Srini Kulkarni. Incidentally, I'm one of the very early users of C-Test at Barclays.
Yeah, I remember you, Srini.
Yeah, so
how are you?
Good, very nice. Say hi to Guy. I think very excited to see the development of C-Test in the cloud, and we have been partners in the beginning of that, so it's great to see the tool.
So Barclays is one of our first users?
So whatever you have seen, my team worked on that. Interesting to see it back again. So you introduce yourself as somebody who does marketing sales, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I'm not a technical person.
And you ended up in covering so much of technical stuff. It's a great thing. And I have a question on marketing, okay? So this is kind of generic. When we want to sell a tool, software testing tool, automation tool, mobile tool, and all that, typical tactic the people are adopt is scare the people, saying if you don't test it properly, your users will go away.
Yeah.
Looks like that scare has lost its impact.
Looks like what?
The scare in terms of saying that if you don't test it well, the users will go away. I am thinking that impact has been lost now. It is no more effective to say, okay, if you don't test well, people will go away. Probably you should, from your marketing hat, think about something that will, a new way of saying, can I sell a tool without scaring the people about the quality?
You're right. You're right, but this was specific to people that are not, most of them are mobile, so I want to get them into idea of, okay.
Any more questions? Okay. Thank you, Dana, for that presentation.
Thank you.
We have a final keynote, Mr. Ashok Kumar Mysore, before we break into tea. A brief regarding the same. He heads the Business Excellence for APAC Multi-Industry and Government Business Unit and India Agile and DevOps COE at CGI. Prior roles involved Transformation Director and Global STM Workstream Leader at CGI. He has 23 plus years of work experience in strategy development and leadership position in the areas of consulting. He has been an Agile lead. He has been awarded in the category of Agile Leader of the Year 2015, audited and moderated by KPMG, accredited coach and trainer over 4,500 members across the globe. I welcome you, sir. Kindly proceed with the presentation.